Hello and welcome to our first Dreamweaver website design project. In this series you'll learn how to build a complete website from start to finish using Dreamweaver CS6. You can use your own images and resources for this project, or if you prefer you can download all of the project files shown in these tutorials. You can also get the complete series manual in printed or ebook format along with the high definition video tutorials from wizibooks.com. In previous lessons, we used JavaScript to animate our banners on our index page and our about page. We're also going to be using JavaScript on our gallery page. I'm just going to switch over to the finished version. So here's our gallery page, and this holds a gallery of images. And as we hover our mouse over them, you'll see that the outline changes from red to yellow, and that's done with CSS. But the JavaScript allows us to view a larger version of the images in our gallery. So if I click on this image, that opens up in a lightbox. And we've got some navigation built into this lightbox. We can go next and scroll through the images, or we've also got the previous button and we can come back through the other images. We've also got the close option here, and if I click on that, the lightbox will disappear. So over the next couple of lessons, we're going to be working on inserting this gallery into our web page. And the first step in that process is to make sure that we've got all the assets that we need to complete the task. So I'm going to minimize this for now and go back to Dreamweaver. And we'll need to make sure that we've got all the files that we need within our site folder. So I'm going to open up the Windows Explorer screen, and on here you can see the John O'Dell Assets folder. And if you've downloaded this file as part of the project, everything you need is in these folders. So let's open up the image folder, and inside that you'll see that we've got a subfolder called Gallery Images. And I'm going to open that one up, and we'll maximize that one for a second. So all the images that we need are in this folder. And we've got the images that we're going to be using within the gallery, and we've also got some additional images that are used by that lightbox. So we've got the next and previous buttons. They're just images attached to that lightbox. So let's just restore this window back so that we can see our website. I've already copied these images across, and I've got that folder sitting inside my images folder, and all of those images are there. Now, when you're working with galleries and the like, it'll save you a lot of time in coding if you number your files sequentially. So I've just called mine image 1, image 2, image 3, and so on. And that will make the coding a lot easier when we get to it. I'm just going to collapse that image folder for now and bring back our Windows Explorer window. And let's just have a look at some of the other assets that we're going to need. We're certainly going to need the JavaScript, and in here I've got 3 JavaScript files. I've got the jQuery, which is the main JavaScript file, and we'll need that for all of our JavaScript projects. We've already used the jQuery banner for our animated banners, and this time we also need this lightbox. And when we copied the banner one across, we should have also copied the lightbox JavaScript one across as well. So let's just check that that's there. Yep, we've got it there. So this is the file that contains the code to make that lightbox work. Let's bring the Explorer window back. If you're not using the John O'Dell assets and you've decided to download your own version of a lightbox, it will also probably come with a CSS file. And if I open up the CSS folder here in the assets folder, I've got 2 additional CSS files, one for my lightbox and one for my forms. The forms we'll look at in another lesson, but we will need both of these files. And if I come across into Dreamweaver and open up my CSS folder, you'll see that I haven't yet copied those files across. So let's do that now. I'm going to bring the Explorer window back up over the top of the Dreamweaver window, and that will allow me to just highlight both of these files, pick them up and drag them across to my CSS folder. And when my cursor's there, I'll release the button, and you'll see that those 2 CSS files have been included now in my website. There's one more file that we'll need, so I'll bring that window back. This is the script file, and this contains a little bit of code that we need to place on our HTML file, and that's contained in the gallery script file. Now this is just a plain text document, and if I open it up, you can see it's just got a few lines of code in there. I'm going to close it down for now, and what we can do is we can simply copy this text file and place it in our website temporarily until we've used it, and then we can delete it from there. So I'm going to pick that script file up, bring it across, and I'm going to drop it in the root folder, the very top one. And if I do that, you'll see that gallery script text file has been placed there, and now it's ready available for us when we need it. So now we've got all the files that we need to begin to build our gallery. So let's get started. We'll open up the gallery HTML document, and we'll make sure that we're in code view. Now if you remember, just having the files in our site is not enough. We need to place links in our HTML file so that the files that we need are related and will appear up here in the related files area. Now I'm a big fan of copying and pasting, and I don't like to do too much typing if I don't have to. And I know that on my index.html page, I'm going to open that one up a second. I know that in there I created the scripts for the banner, and this was a script link to our jQuery.js file, and this was also a script link to our jQuery banner file. So I'm going to copy these two lines of text, and I'll switch back to the gallery page, and I'm going to paste these just underneath the title in the head section. So I'll place my cursor at the end, give myself a little bit of space, and we'll paste those two lines of code in. Now the first line links to our jQuery file, which is a file that we need every time we use JavaScript on these web pages. The second line, as it stands, is a link to the jQuery banner file, and that's not the one we need. We need to link this one to the lightbox. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this section, including the quotation marks, and I'll change that so that it points to the correct file. And to do that, I'm just going to type in an opening quotation mark, and that will bring up the browse option. So I'll press enter, and that takes us into our select file dialog box. I'm going to open up the JS folder, and this is the one we want, the lightbox. So I'll click on that and say OK, and now we've got that link to the lightbox.js file. So that's the links to our JavaScript files. We also need a link to our CSS file, so we want the lightbox CSS file to be recognized as well. We've already got a style CSS, but this is going to be an additional CSS file that will hold the formatting for our gallery. So I'm just going to come down underneath my lines of script, and we'll create the link to that lightbox CSS. And again, I don't want to type if I don't have to. Here I've got the link for my styles.css file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight that and copy. Then I'm going to come up into the editable area, and in there I'm going to paste. And now I've pasted that line of code in, but again this is pointing to the wrong file. The href in this case is pointing to the styles.css. So I'll use the same method again. I'm going to highlight this link to the styles CSS file, including the quotation marks, and I'm going to type a single quotation mark. Up comes the browse window. I'm going to press enter, and the select file dialog box will open, and we're still in the jQuery folder at the moment, so I'm just going to come up a level and open up the CSS folder. And this is the lightbox CSS file that we need, so I'll select that and say OK, and that now links us to the correct CSS file for our gallery. Everything else in here should be the same. It's a style sheet, this is the type, the text CSS, and the media is for screen. So the only thing we need to change is that reference to make sure it points to the correct file. And one last thing that we need is that little bit of script contained in our text file that we copied over earlier. So I'm going to open up that text script, and that just opens up in Dreamweaver as a text file. and I'm going to copy all of this. So we'll highlight and copy, and then we'll switch back to our gallery page, and just underneath the link that I just pasted in the Lightbox CSS, I'm going to come down underneath that, and then we'll paste that little bit of script in. And I've now finished with this script file, so I'm going to close that one down, and then I can come across here and get rid of this file. We don't need it anymore. So I'll right click and say edit, delete. We'll say yes please, and that file will disappear. So we've copied all the files that we need for our gallery into our site folder, and we've set up the links to those files, and then we added that little bit of script that's going to actually make our gallery work. So we're now ready to start working on inserting the images, and we'll do that in the next lesson. If you found this series of videos helpful and you want to receive updates on video tutorials as they're released, why not subscribe to my channel? And don't forget to like and share it with your friends.